Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I know this is another sit down with me video where I'm just gonna yap, and that is not what this channel typically is. It's usually me adventuring and being out on various trails. But to be honest, I have not hiked in weeks, and I'm pretty tired. I'm not gonna lie. Been traveling quite a bit, even though I'm not hiking. So we're just gonna yap for a little bit, and I'm gonna tell you about my top 5 scariest times on trail. I don't know, scariest days on trail, scariest instances on trail. I'm pretty sure they're in order of how scared I was. I will try my best to insert any type of clip or photo from that day. I most likely won't have it from that instance, because to be completely honest, when I'm scared, the first thing I'm thinking about is not filming it or taking a picture for documentation purposes. But I will do my best to paint a picture for everyone. So, without further ado, my top 5 scariest moments. Starting with, I guess, number 5 actually is the most recent, and it didn't scare me until after the fact. But when I hiked Mount Belford and Mount Oxford, I did my first ever solo alpine start, which is not something I like to do, especially now that I live in a area that has mountain lions. And I forget the word. My sister has to tell it to me all the time, but it's this word. Mountain lions are this word, which means they are more active at dusk and dawn. And I knew that. And I'm hiking along, and it's dark out. I have my headlamp on, and I see a flash of green in the woods. And I think to myself, no, there's no way. That was too small. I don't see it again. It immediately disappears. I'm like, it is not what I think it is. But it's unsettling. And I'm hiking along. I push it out of my mind. But I'm constantly like head on a swivel, not sure, just trying not to look too far into the woods out of just fear of what could be there. And whatever, there's just this like certain uneasiness of it. I think it might just be my knowledge of knowing that mountain lions are most active at this time, because at this point the sun is starting to come up. It's kind of like blue hour where we're getting into true dawn. And then I make it to, there's a clearing. It's like an old avalanche area. And there's just a bunch of switchbacks, like straight up. And I'm still feeling a little uneasy, but I pass this big group that's now behind me, and I can hear them, I can see them, and I'm going, and then I stumble upon the cabin, and there's an abandoned cabin along the way. And then it's daylight, and I'm good to go. Well, when I was hiking Pikes Peak, I was talking to my friend who I was hiking with, who had done Oxford and Belford the day before me. And she goes, "Oh, have you heard about the mountain lion den that's near the trail?" And I said, "No. Why?" And apparently there's a well-known mountain lion in the area that last year had 2 cubs. And there's many stories of this mountain lion stalking people and not really moving out of the way when they make noises. And so my friend tells me to check out Reddit, and check it out. And there had been no mountain lion spottings this year. These all happened last year that people saw. From what I could gather, I'll throw up kind of like a map, I guess, of roughly where the mountain lion den is, to my knowledge, what I can gather from Reddit comments and Facebook comments. But it's right on one of the switchbacks before you get to like that avalanche clearing when it was dusk. And I was like, okay, well, I did see a flash of green. Maybe I was making it up in my head. But then couple days pass, and my friend sends me a post that is in the 14ers Facebook group, and someone has seen said mountain lion on Mount Missouri, which is the mountain right next door to it, and this mountain lion stalked this person for about a quarter mile. So now going into number 4. This was a rough day, I will admit, for many, many different reasons. But this was the day that we all summited Baden-Powell. There was a mountain lion that day, actually. That was not what scared me. That one was kind of whatever, even though my friends decided to meow at it, which is a choice. And Logan, I know you might be watching this. A choice. A choice. Anyways, we go up to Baden-Powell. It's a high snow year, obviously. And it's like my whole personality with the PCT is, it's a high snow year. Anyways, Baden-Powell, covered in snow. We stayed up there for way too long, and the snow started to get soft. And me and the person I was hiking with, we misread the the far out comments, and we ended up following, I think, the PCT, or we meant to follow we followed the ridge, and we were supposed to follow. Anyways, it was post-holy. It was slippery. I bent both of my poles. I fell so many times. It was the first time I had a huge, huge mental breakdown on this mountain. Logan / handyman, he slid for 25 feet, 25 yards, whatever it was. It was far. And then he just went crashing down the mountain and was bushwhacking at one point. But I legitimately thought I was not going to make it out of there. That was a real tough one. There were multiple times that Flamingo literally had to grab me and save me from sliding down the mountain. I don't think we had ice axes. I think I had already sent mine forward or sent mine home at that point, and it was a mess, and I was scared, and I didn't like it, and I don't think I thought about quitting trail, but I definitely questioned what I was doing out there. It was just not great. Not a great day, to be fairly honest. Number 3. I swear all of these are not about mountain lions. Baden-Powell technically was not about a mountain lion, but this was my other close-ish mountain lion encounter on the PCT. And it was the day that we had to hike from one water cache to the other. And it was just a mess of a day. I slept under a Joshua tree for most of the day. We met up with Charmer at one point, and then hid behind the one and only pine tree that we could find. And then we met this person, Bobcat, and she was hiking with Mismatch, I think was the other person. And we ended up going, we all stopped at a picnic table, and there was some water there, which was really nice. So anyways, we stopped to fill up water. We ended up snacking, and we hung out there for a while, and we just kind of were hiking into dusk. And then, so it was the 5 of us. Flamingo was there too. And he and I end up stopping and separating from the group. I think we took a water break, or we were having a snack break or whatever. So the other 3 go ahead. So, Charmer, Bobcat, and Mismatch. And it's dusk at this point. It's dark, or it's going into dark. And that night there was a full moon, and normally with a full moon, we didn't really hike with headlamps, but something in me that night was pull your headlamp out, just wear it. I don't know why. I think it was because I kept tripping that night, and I was really, really frustrating. But it is dark. It is probably 9 o'clock at this point. And Flamingo and I, we come around this bend in the trail, and we see 3 headlamps in the distance, or maybe 2. And I don't think Mismatch had one. So it was oh, those must be our friends. Cool, we're close. They must be waiting for us or taking a break. And then they saw us, and they're waiting for us. So I realize that it's them and I start shouting and they're shouting stuff back and I can't hear it. And we get closer and they're like, oh my God, there's a mountain lion in the area. And we're like, what? What's going on? They were like, it was just up on that ridge. And I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, where we're standing, they were like, well, like we went a little bit further and like then we saw your headlamps and we stopped and we figured we'd wait and warn anyone that's in the area. We think we scared it off, but it went uphill, not downhill, which you never want to hear that a mountain lion is above you. So we were like, we still had a few miles to camp, I think, at that point, and we just pulled out our headlamps and we were in a tight pack and we decided that we weren't going to separate. We were going to head into camp together. We just kind of kept swiveling back and forth to make sure that this mountain lion is not stalking us. But what had happened was Mismatch was in the front of the three and he was like face to face with this mountain lion and scared it off. So we decided to sing songs, namely some Girl Scout Repeat After Me songs, which was really funny. That I definitely have a clip of that I can insert, but that was so scary because I think that was like the closest I had ever been to a mountain lion that I knew of. I'm sure that I've been stalked in the past and I just don't know, and I'm okay not knowing because mountain lions are those animals that like I'm fine with them until I realize that they're there. Like, to me, they are like sharks. So I grew up in Massachusetts and there's a lot of issues with great whites. This is an aside story. And I was talking to a friend who used to be a lifeguard at a beach. And I was like, well, what's your take on sharks? And she was like, honestly, it's their habitat and we're just hanging out in it. So like, you can't really be mad that sharks are existing or in the area or in the water. Like, it is their habitat. This is where they live. We don't live in the water. So same principles kind of apply with mountain lions and me. It's like, this is their habitat. We're just visiting. We're just hanging out. They're just doing their thing. But like, don't stalk me. Thanks. Anyways, moving on to number 3. Moving on from number 3 to number 2. This one is weather related. And this was very, very, very early on in my hiking adventures. I had just started, I think it was technically year 2 of my pursuit of the New Hampshire 48. And I decided that, I started with Mount Washington, which was like a take. But I decided I was going to go back to the presidential range and I was going to do some of the higher mountains. And I decided that I wanted to do Madison Adams Jefferson. I think that's the order. And how I was doing it was going up Adams. So I was going up, I think it's the Ice Caves Trail or whatever. And then I was going to summit Adams, cut over to Jefferson, double back, hit Madison, and then go down. I think it was Airline Trail. I think that was like the way I was going to do it. This was years ago, and I honestly can't remember. Anyways, going up Ice Caves, it's a boulder field. It's rough. It's hard. I ended up giving myself a concussion, I think, because I bashed my head off a rock. That's neither here nor there, but it was just really, really, really slow going. And I get up to Adams, summit it, no problem. And then I'm like, okay, time to go to Jefferson. And that took me a lot longer than I thought. So I summit Jefferson. It's getting cloudy. And if you know anything about the White Mountains, specifically the presidential range, specifically the North Presidentials, then you will know that the weather up there is crazy. It is pretty much the same as Colorado. Like, you need to summit by a certain time and you need to get the heck out of there and you need to watch out for afternoon thunder showers, because if you are caught up there, you are screwed. So I'm up on Jefferson. Jefferson, I think, is like the second tallest mountain in the presidentials. No, Monroe is the second tallest next to Washington. But Jefferson is the 3rd, I believe. And it's cloudy and it's ominous and I am freaking out. So I scramble down Jefferson and I'm back on the 18 and it ends up being flatter than the ridge walk that I had done. Anyways, I am like running and these clouds are just coming straight towards me and I can tell that they are storm clouds. And I couldn't bail down Jefferson because I would have been miles from my car and it was this whole mess. So I was like, I thought to myself, you've got 2 options. You go down Jefferson and you kind of roll the dice on a trail that you did no research on and you'll be miles from your car, or you continue on to Madison because Madison has a hut. And Madison Hut might not let you stay there, but it sure as heck will let you wait out the storm. I think. Who knows? So I get to Madison. The storm clouds are getting worse, and I suddenly get cell phone service, and I'm like, I gotta call my mom. I gotta let her know that something's going on. Of course, she's at a party at my aunt's house. Doesn't understand what I'm saying. I'm freaking out. She's like, whatever, just get down the mountain. Okay, mom, what do you think I'm trying to do? So I'm hightailing it to Madison Hut. Thankfully, Madison Hut is basically at tree line. So I'm like, okay, if I can get to Madison Hut and I can get below tree line, I'm good. So I get there and there's a guy who I pass and he's like, oh, you staying at the hut? No, sir. No, sir. I am on a mission to save my life. So I get to Madison Hut. I assess the situation. I'm like, you know what? I'm basically at tree line. I'm just going to send it. And I start hiking down the trail. Luckily, Airline is one of the easiest trails I've ever done in the White Mountains. And I was booking it. Luckily, the storm held off. And I don't know how long that trail is, but I was about 2 miles from my car when it started to rain. And that was like a fairly flat bit of trail. So I just kind of like trail ran back to my car. And I was about maybe a mile when the thunder and lightning started. So it wasn't the worst, but I also didn't have a headlamp with me. And it was dark and it was scary. And I was still such a novice hiker that I learned a lot about turnaround times and my abilities as a hiker that day. So anyways, that was number 2. Now the top scariest moment I've ever had on trail is also weather related. And it has played a big factor in how I hike now, who I am as a hiker, what I am comfortable with, what are sort of my no-goes when it comes to hiking. This was on the PCT. So we are in NorCal and it's our first day there. And I am sick. And I didn't realize how sick I was going to get. I made a whole video about it. I can link it below, reference it, I don't know, a banner up here, whatever. But it was our first day in NorCal. We were hiking out of Chester and we needed to get to the border of Lassen Volcanic National Park because none of us had our bear cans on us. I think one person had an Ursac on them, but we were like, well, we legally cannot stay in Lassen. So let's get to the edge. It'll set us up for a 19.5-mile day tomorrow, and we'll get to the north border of Lassen Volcanic tomorrow. So because of that, because I was sick, I was going slow. Because I had taken a whole week of zeros and taken 3 days to flip north, because of all of these things, we were very slow going. There was also humidity for like the first time in the entire trail at that point, because we had been in the desert the whole time. So it's raining in the afternoon around sunset. And there's this beautiful, beautiful double rainbow through the trees. It's like I have videos of the rain and it's sparkling and it's gorgeous. And I'm like, oh, this is great. We're having a great time. Granted, I'm soaking wet, but it was hot and it was pretty. And then the sun sets and we're also in this burn area. I think it was, I forget it wasn't the complex fire. I forget the name of the fire, but it was one of the biggest fires in California history. The Dixie Fire. It was the Dixie Fire. So we're in the remains of the Dixie Fire. And these trees are just burnt to a crisp. So it's dark out, it's raining. We're like I said, we're in a burn zone, so there's not a lot of cover, and there's just these like tall, basically spires, which are the trees sticking up. And then the lightning starts. And I kid you not, the lightning we could see hitting the ground about a quarter mile, maybe less than that, because we could see further because the woods were all burned. Maybe a quarter mile ahead of us. It could have been less, to be completely honest. It could have been further. Who the heck knows? Because I stink at judging distance. But it was close. It was like you saw the lightning, immediately heard the thunder. And I didn't get any video of this because so focused on getting to camp. We passed multiple small camps of people set up, and we didn't know if any of them were our friends because it was raining out, so everyone was in their tents. Come to find out, I was talking to Charmer about this. He set up his tent with who he thought was handyman and someone else, and turns out they were complete random strangers. And the worst part about it was we were hiking into the storm. The storm was not behind us or going to the side of us. We were directly hiking into the storm, so we were going towards the lightning. We got to camp that night, and we set up in the rain. The entire inside of the tent was soaked. All of our stuff was soaked. Like, everything was just drenched. Luckily, it wasn't cold out. Luckily, our sleeping bags were still dry. But everything else was wet. And it was wet to start the morning. It was this whole thing. But that night I went to bed and I was just thankful to be alive, thankful to be in camp with like all of these other, there was probably 20 other tents. We also set up on a slope, which sucked. It was just not good because we set up so late at night. And I made a vow to myself that night. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with the weather. I'm done messing around with the weather. This was not cool. And then honestly, because I got sick and because Lassen was so tough because there was snow and there was just a lot of like, it was a big burn area. There was a lot of blowdowns. It was a miserable day of hiking and I just sort of blocked it from my memory, but yeah, never again. So now that I live in Colorado and do higher summits and there's crazy weather, that night has, one, better prepared me for how to respond to inclement weather, but two, I don't push the boundaries anymore because it's not worth it. So anyways, there are my top five scariest moments on trail. A lot of mountain lions, a lot of weather. It's the two things I guess I'm most scared of. I had a number of bear encounters that weren't scary, to be completely honest. There was one that was kind of scary, and that was the first bear I saw. It took a step forward towards us, but we immediately scared it off. Black bears are skittish. Knock on wood, I have not encountered a grizzly bear, but I haven't really hiked in but I haven't really hiked in grizzly country. So that probably plays into it. And yeah, I mean, we did have some water crossings that were kind of like so, but I never felt scared for my life. Maybe whitewater, but like that water was really warm and it was a lot easier to cross than people made it out to be. I think it was just because it was like the first big water. I think it was just because it was the first big water crossing of the PCT and someone had been rescued a few weeks beforehand. And come to find out, I mean, that area is completely washed out, the Mission Creek area and the PCT, but that was nothing to do with like the snow or anything. That was Hurricane Hillary that hit. But yeah, that's kind of it. apologies for the ramble. Apologies for the yap session again. I am hiking again this weekend, so hopefully we will get back to some regularly scheduled content. So right now I have plans to hike Saturday and hopefully Sunday. We'll see. I haven't looked at the weather forecast. Been a little bit crazy at work recently, and by recently I mean this week. So yeah, and I've got a lot of hikes that I want to get done this summer, and we'll just see where everything takes me. So thanks everyone. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, apologies for how much I yapped, but hopefully you enjoyed hearing some trail stories that some I've told before, some I haven't told before. Some people might find them scary, some might not, but I just don't mess with mountain lions and I don't mess with thunder and lightning. So see you next time.